Good morning, ASEAN. Fresh up your world, your thought, and your idea with us every Monday to Friday from 7:30 to 8 a.m. I'm Nirasha Malisaklamia.
And Wina Jungbasit. It's Friday, the 4th of October, and let's first start to update on the flood situation in Thailand, Kunirsha, as up to 51 flood victims in Prachinburi have ended up in hospital after consuming food that was handed over as aid yesterday. Of them, 5 were in a bad state and still being treated at hospital. The victims either began vomiting or got diarrhea after eating the food that was handed out to them at a flood relief center in Tambon Ban Hoi. Prachinburi Public Health Chief Dr. Nopon Pong Ploom Piti Chai said. The flood relief center in Prajanthakam district's Tambon Ban Hoi was set up after strong currents of water broke down on earthen ridge in nearby Kabinburi district and inundated the area. Chacheongseao Governor Anukun Tangkanaknukun Chai said the water current from Prachinburi was so strong that many areas in his province were also flooded. Floods in Chacheongseao's Panom Sarakham district are already a meter high. According to Disaster Prevention and Mitigation Department, Chatchai Promlerd, flooding has now hit 24 provinces. Since September 17, floods have ravaged more than 2.16 million rise of farmland and upset the lives of more than 2.87 million people. Over the same period, the flood-related death toll has risen to 27. Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra has instructed provincial governors to survey affected properties and farmland and deliver assistance to victims. She's also insisting that all infrastructure damage be fixed immediately after the floods subside. Bangkok Governor Sukhumpan Boripat, meanwhile, assured residents that city officials were prepared to deal with the floods, though he reckoned that some parts of the capital might end up getting flooded in the event of non-stop downpours.
And representatives of Thailand's private sector are confident that the U.S. policymakers will soon achieve a compromise on their budget impasse. Even though President Barack Obama has been forced to cancel trips to Malaysia and the Philippines and may miss the APEC summit in Bali and the ASEAN summit in Brunei next week, Federations of Thai Industry chairman Payungsak Chatsutiphon said yesterday that so far no Thai exporters had been affected by the U.S. shutdown. While he does not expect much of a negative impact even if it lasts as long as a similar incident in 1996. And he considered that the longer the conflicts drag on, the more damage would be done. He added that the U.S. economy was not as strong as it was in the past, and Thailand should brace for volatility in the foreign exchange rate through the Bank of Thailand, must have traced capital flows and made preparations. While not worried about the current roll over the U.S. budget, former BOT Governor Tharisa Wattanagat said the debt ceiling would eventually have to be raised or the United States would have to default on debt and face a downgrade in its credit rating. She says if that happened, it would be tough to restore investor confidence, even though the demand for the dollar and U.S. Treasury bonds would remain high. She acknowledged that it was difficult to predict capital flow movements, but it was certain that Thailand would face higher volatility. She also advised that all must prepare for this and keep strong. Financial institutions, businesses, and households should not build up excessive debt, while policymakers should keep updated on political movements in all countries. Bangkok Bank President Chatsiri Sophonpanit predicted that the Obama administration would eventually succeed in ending the statement on the budget and move on to resolve the debt ceiling issue, curtailing economic impact. And meanwhile, at this critical moment, the U.S. Federal Reserve is expected to take higher responsibility in maintaining the economic momentum. Speculations that the Fed would keep the pace of its bond buying program has driven the stock exchange of Thailand and other Asian bourses, even though investors remain nervous over the U.S. budget gridlock, while the SET index rose 1.43% to 1,429.18 points yesterday, and the baht stabilized at 31.25 against the U.S. dollars.
And after the recent trip of Chinese President Xi Jinping to Indonesia, Indonesia and China has inked a trade and investment deal that's worth 28.2 billion US dollars. Representatives from the two countries' business communities signed deals in the mining, manufacturing, energy, and transport sectors. Among the deals was a 1.5 billion US dollars investment from state-run China Communications Construction Company, or CCCC, to build a 30-kilometer monorail network through the capital, Jakarta. Investors have long bemoaned Jakarta's relentless traffic, which sucks billions of dollars from Indonesia's economy annually. CCCC General Manager He Junfeng said that Indonesia was attractive as a large market with strong economic growth, but infrastructure was in need of improvement. President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono told Chinese businessmen that Indonesia's doors are open for anyone who wants to invest. The government of Indonesia is continuing to improve the quality of service for investors and trade partners, including China, he said. The China Development Bank will invest in projects with Indonesia's oak pulp and paper mills, while Chinese companies and financial institutions will invest in coal mining as well as electricity generation and aluminum smelters. State-owned Industrial and Commercial Bank of China also signed a deal to lease 5 Boeing 777 and 6 Airbus 320 planes to Indonesia's flag carrier Garuda. Indonesian officials have said they hope the cooperation with China would boost their economy, which is experiencing a slowdown after years of steady growth. The Indonesian and Chinese central banks agreed on Tuesday to a 100 billion yuan or 16.3 billion US dollar currency swap deal to shore up the ailing rupiah if necessary. Trade between China and Indonesia has soared from 16.5 billion in 2005 to more than 66.2 billion US dollars in 2012, while Chinese direct investment has also increased. Xi started the 2-day state visit to Indonesia on Wednesday. Earlier Thursday, he made the first ever speech by a foreign leader to the Indonesian parliament, in which he urged peaceful resolution of territorial disputes after rows with Southeast Asian countries over the South China Sea.
Now let's have a look at the Philippines, as Filipino officials said yesterday that discussions over proposals to expand the American military's presence in the Philippines failed to reach a deal. The plan would allow more U.S. troops, aircraft, and ships to temporarily pass through the Philippines and Asian military allies at a time when Washington is refocusing its attentions on Asia. President Benigno Aquino has pushed for the deal to help modernize the Philippine military and to contain China, which he accuses of illegally laying claim to most of the South China Sea, including parts of Filipino territory. The two sides completed a fourth round of talks in Manila on Wednesday, but Filipino negotiators could not say when this will resume amid a U.S. government shutdown. And Chief Filipino negotiator Pio Patino said that the negotiations are at a crucial stage, with more work needed over the installations to be offered to the Americans, as well as the pre-positioning of U.S. defense equipment. The other key issues tackled this week were on ownership and security, according to a Philippine government statement. U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel had said that during a visit to Manila in late August that the two allies were moving towards an agreement in the near future, and the access talks were to have been a centerpiece of Obama's visit to Manila on October 11 to 12. However, Obama canceled the Malaysian and Philippine legs of his trip on Wednesday due to the budget standoff with Republican leaders. Assistant Foreign Secretary Carlos Soreta said Manila remained hopeful of concluding the agreement, even though the negotiators have yet to decide on when or where to meet next.
After the break, the controversial rule to allow detention without charge was already approved by the Malaysian parliament. A controversial move by the Malaysian government to give authorities power to hold people for years without charge was headed for Parliament after the lower house passed it early Thursday. The move by Prime Minister Najib Razak's long-ruling coalition has sparked an uproar by the opposition and activists who denounce it as a step back toward the tough authoritarian rule that Najib had pledged to end. The amendment to a 1959 crime prevention law allows authorities to hold crime suspects for an initial 2 years, which can be extended indefinitely without charge. The government says police need that to deal with a recent burst of gun violence. But preventive detention is a highly charged issue in Malaysia, whose 56-year-old ruling coalition has been accused of regularly using previous tough laws to silence dissent. Lawmakers and media reports said the parliament's lower house passed the amendments early Thursday, shortly after midnight. It is unconstitutional to us. It takes away the right to liberty, and the law is drafted in such a way that the net can cover everyone, Tian Shua, a senior opposition politician, told AFP. The passage comes despite a pledge last week by the government to take into account concerns that have been raised. Senate approval is still required, but that is virtually assured as the Barisan Nasional, or the National Front ruling coalition, controls the body. Under public pressure for reform, Najib in 2011 abolished 2 tough, decades-old laws that allowed indefinite detention without trial, touting the move as a shift toward a more democratic society. Najib said this week the crime amendments would not be abused, and his home minister insists they are far weak from earlier security laws.
And Philippine President and now former Philippines President and now Congresswoman Gloria Macapagal Arroyo yesterday was charged with plunder for alleged misuse of 900 million pesos Malampaya funds in 2009. Philippine Justice Secretary Leila de Lima, whose office has the jurisdictions over the National Bureau of Investigation, which conducted the investigation, led the filing of complaints before the Office of the Ombudsman. Aside from Arroyo, 21 other former and current government officials and other private individuals with plunder were her former cabinet officials, such as then Executive Secretary Eduardo Emita, then Budget Secretary Rolando Andaya, and then Agrarian Reform Secretary Nasser Pangandaman. Janet Lim, Napole's alleged brain in the supposed 10 billion pesos pork barrel scam, and officials of the bogus non-government organizations which she allegedly formed were also included in the complaint. Some of those who were included in the complaint were also facing violation of Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act. According to De Lima, even before an executive order was issued by Arroyo on October 13, 2009, there was already a request for authorization to access the Malampaya Fund, the royalties that the national government received from Malampaya projects of Palawan province. The 900 million pesos, which was given to fake NGOs, was supposed to benefit victims of Tropical Storm Ketsana and Typhoon Parma in the latter part of 2009. De Lima said that Napole's NGOs falsified the signatures of the supposed local officials whose areas were hit by the 2 weather disturbances.
In this next special report, it's on Singaporeans wanting stricter credit card rules. Find out more from this report by the Straits Times.
Not one, not two, but at least 3 credit cards per person. That's the average number of credit cards a Singaporean owns, according to those Razor TV spoke to on the streets. Credit cards have become a way of life here. Most use it for their daily expenses, travel and online purchases. Out of 10 Singaporeans we spoke to, 5 have at least 3 credit cards that they use regularly. The others have at least 2 cards each. But not everyone manages their credit debt well.
I don't really manage it sometimes. Yeah, having a lot of problems with that. Normally, I only pay for it when I receive my letters or when I receive a call from them. I think it's a very common problem, right? Yeah, people not being able to pay off. I mean, I do have friends who are owing credit card bills.
Do you find it difficult to balance because the different banks, different bills?
Before, maybe, yes, when I had multiple cards, but then I decided to just consolidate my spending under a couple of cards, so that's better.
Do you think that's the norm, like overspending among young adults?
It is, I think. Yeah, friends and colleagues who tend to spend over their budget. I think they're very open about it.
Are there a lot of people that you know that are overspending?
Yeah, I know.
They have difficulty managing their credit?
Yes, usually the credit rolls over and they are charged the interest here.
Do you think that's like the norm these days, like young people overspending?
Yes, I think so, because of gratification. Immediate gratification, so people tend to spend first and think later.
Singaporeans tell Razor TV that they spend an average of $500 to several $1,000s on their credit card every month. And it seems the banks here make it attractive for people to pay with credit cards over cash.
Because of the promotions that they have, like rebates and vouchers.
Some got different benefits and discounts, of course.
What do you use your credit card for?
I use it for shopping and dining, most cases like hotel bookings and stuff.
I use it to do online purchases.
I just have a couple for travel and emergencies.
But not everyone can pay off their credit card bills in time. As of July this year, 62,830 customers who use credit cards, overdrafts and personal loans have not made a minimum payment in 2 months, according to Credit Bureau Singapore. This is 12.7% more than the 55,726 people last year. The Bureau's data also showed that consumers rack up an average monthly debt of $8,030 on their credit cards and overdrafts this year, up from $7,859 last year. To curb overspending on credit cards, the Monetary Authority of Singapore has proposed changes, such as not granting further credit to cardholders who have outstanding debt of more than 60 days, not allowing cardholders to sign up for new cards until they clear their outstanding debt, more stringent checks on a borrower's total debt and credit limit before issuing a new credit card, and increasing the credit limit or granting more unsecured credit to a cardholder. Singaporeans whom Razor TV spoke to welcomed the changes.
I think it gives people a chance not to overspend on their cards. Yeah, and to manage their finances better. Yes.
I think there are a lot of people overspending also, so it's a good move to curb spending.
Maybe those people who will spend recklessly will think twice before they spend.
Probably good for people who don't know how to manage their finances, I guess. I mean, I've had people I know of that overspend on their cards, so I don't know, maybe this might help them.
I think probably maybe if they cut off the card, it's okay. But if they disallow you to even apply for another card, it's quite harsh.
60 days should be more than enough. But sometimes we tend to forget because we are so caught up with our own world, and then we tend to overlook on certain things. I think the company should give some leeway, like extension or reminder, that would help.
The MAS said the proposals will be implemented in stages, with some taking effect as soon as the revised rules are issued. Others will take effect over time to give borrowers and financial institutions time to adjust.
And that wraps up our Good Morning ASEAN edition. See you again, same time, same place, same channel.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Rina Jongprasit.
And I am Nirasha Malisak Lami. Have a great weekend. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ